Hello kids, this is Mr. Whistler and here is your video lesson of the day, and today we are going to be talking about the Articles of Confederation or America's first Constitution. We have some vocab and our first word is government. Now this is a repeat word but I want to go over it again. The official is the people in authority who run a country, state, or city. The 8th grade definition is the one that we learned earlier. It's the rhyme or the rap. And it's the people who make the laws, carry out the laws, and settle disagreements about the laws. Now this building right here that you're looking at is called the Capitol building. And this is where the people who make the laws work. On this side of the building is where the Senate meets. And on this side of the building is where the House of Representatives meet. Remember, the Senate makes laws and the House of Representatives make laws, and together both of these things are called Congress. Well, they're sometimes called another name, and another name for the people who make the laws besides Congress is the legislature. Now notice that the word legislature starts with an L. And the word laws start with an L. So the people who work in the legislatures make laws. So the people who make the laws work in the Capitol. Now this is a picture of the White House, and the president is the chief executive of the country, and he works in the White House. And the president is in charge of carrying out the laws. And remember, I used the FBI as an example. The department, the FBI, is under the president and they enforce laws, so the president is in charge of carrying out the laws. This is a picture of the Supreme Court. And the Supreme Court settles disagreements about the laws. Now, all three of these things together, the people who make the laws, the people who carry out the laws, and the people who settle disagreements about the laws, make up the government. So these three things together are called the three branches of government. Now, the branch that makes the laws is called the legislative branch. The branch that carries out the laws, or the branch that has our chief executive, is called the executive branch. And the branch who settles disagreements about the laws is called the judicial branch. So we have legislative, executive, and judicial branch. The significance of government is the most distinctive feature or unique feature, or the feature that's most, is separation of. Now I ask you, which branch has power? And we the answer of them. The legislative branch has power over the executive branch, and the legislative branch has power over the judicial branch. The executive branch also has power over the legislative branch, and it also has power over the judicial branch. The judicial branch has power over the executive branch and the legislative branch. So the answer is, which one has the most power is none. They all are equal. Next word is Constitution. The official, a constitution is a plan of government. Rules that a country follows to keep order. Significance, the Constitution is the supreme law of the land. I think about playing a board game. When you play a board game and you don't know what to do, you read the directions. Sometimes they're on the back of the box, sometimes they're on paper inside the box. But if you don't know what to do, you go to and look up the rules. Well, in the game of government, the rules are the Constitution. So if the president doesn't know what to do, he goes and looks in the Constitution under the President, and the Constitution, it tells him exactly what his job is. So the Constitution is a plan of government. Our next word is republic. A republic is a government in which citizens rule through elected representatives. This is the Senate chamber, and all these guys that work in government or work in the Senate chamber were elected. So where people are elected to run the government. Significance: republics are a more efficient way to give everyone a say. There are 300 million people in the United States, and if all 300 million of them had to vote on every issue, we'd never get anything done. So we elect people to go work in Congress, and these people are our representatives, and they make the laws, and they are the ones who vote. How did you get here?
I got elected. I'm a representative.
All right, the Articles of Confederation is our next word. And the Articles of Confederation, here's a picture of them here, were the United States' first Constitution. The Constitution that we used during the Revolutionary War. This Constitution allowed us to be united. It allowed us to fight the war, but it did not allow us to elect a president. Now, under the Articles of Confederation, we could not elect a president. There was no president. We could not tax. This was a bad one, because how do governments get money? By taxing the people. And if they had no way to earn money by taxing the people, they were going to have a hard time operating. Because of this, the Articles were pretty weak. And they were designed that way on purpose. And so, to change the Articles, all 13 states had to ratify to make the change. So it's obvious that these need to be changed, because the government needs a way to earn money, and the way they earn money is to tax. So they're going to want to try to change these. The way you change the Constitution is through an amendment. Our next word. An amendment is a change or addition to the Constitution. So, in our little amendment here, the federal government shall have the right to tax. So, it's obviously that the change tax to earn money is the amendment. And they want 13 the amendment. And all 13 states look at it in their state legislatures and vote on it. And if all 13 vote on it, then the Articles of Confederation would be able to tax people and earn money. But if 12 voted for it, and one state did not vote for it, it failed, and they couldn't tax. So, an amendment is to change the significance. And what are they going to change? The Constitution. Amendments provide a way to change the document, this document, to fix problems. We need to change the articles so we can tax. To do it, all 13 states have to ratify it, though. So, during the war, while some men were fighting, others were creating new governments. So we talked about this. We talked about the battles in the Revolutionary War unit, the battles of Lexington and Concord, the battles of Saratoga, Yorktown. While all those battles were going on, these guys at the same time were creating the government. So in May of 1776, around the time of the Battle of Long Island, Congress, these guys, asked the states to start creating new governments. So each state began writing and adopting state constitutions. Because of their bad experience with the British, they were careful about placing too much power in the hands of a single person. So they really limited the power of state governors. The states took other measures against one group or one person having too much power. So they split the government's power between the governor and the legislature. Remember, the legislatures make laws. And at this time, a lot of the states only had a one-house legislature. So they got to looking at that, and they decided that if they only had one house, that could mean too much power for one group. So they decided to split the legislature into two houses. And remember, the legislatures make laws, and the people that worked in the legislature were elected. And they were elected by the citizens. Now, at the time, citizens only meant white males older than 21 who owned property. Women weren't citizens, blacks weren't citizens, only white males over 21 who owned property. So they were so freaked out about one person or one group having too much power, they really just wanted to keep the power in the hands of the people. So because the governor's powers were so restricted, legislatures ended up having the most power in government. Now, back in these days, back in the 1700s, the legislatures were the most powerful. But in modern times, remember, no branch is the most powerful. They're all equal. So, forming the state governments was much easier than forming a central or a federal government. They agreed that the central government should be a republic. And remember, a republic are citizens who rule through elected representatives. And here's a picture of the Senate chamber, and all those guys in there are elected representatives. So we have a republic. In 1776, after they told the states to start forming new governments, they formed a committee to draw up a new central government. They knew they needed a new central government to run the war against Britain. So after much arguing and much debate, Congress adopted the committee's plan and the United States' first Constitution, which was called the Articles of Confederation. So the states really gave up little power. They kind of looked at the central government as a firm league of friendship between the states and the central government. They really thought they only needed the central government for two reasons. One would be conduct foreign affairs or set up trade agreements with other countries. They thought that would be a more efficient way to do it than each individual state talking to the countries 13 different times and trying to set up trade agreements. So they thought conducting foreign affairs for all the states was a good reason to have a central government. They also thought a good reason for the central government would be to fight a war. And if there wasn't a war going on, then the only thing that the federal government had to do was conduct foreign affairs. So really, each state kept its power, each state kept its freedom, and each state kept its independence. They really thought of themselves as a mini country. So at the time when our country first started, the state governments were much more powerful than the federal government. So under the Articles of Confederation, the government had the power to conduct foreign affairs, maintain armed forces, borrow money, issue currency or money, and make laws. So they could do really just 5 things under the Articles, the central government. Let's make some laws. Yes, we can do that. Okay, under the Articles, they could not do regulate trade. Now, regulate trade means making rules for trade. So a simple example might be, say you had 2 farmers, and one farmer sold corn for $1, and the other farmer sold corn for 90 cents. Well, you're obviously going to buy the corn for 90 cents. So the one that sells it for $1 is going to lower his price to 80 cents. And then the other one will lower his price to 70 cents. And then the other one will lower his price to 60 cents. And before long, neither farmer is making any money. So the government sometimes comes in and regulates trade. They might make a rule that says you can't sell corn for less than 85 cents. So if both farmers are selling corn for 85 cents, then the people will buy the corn that's the best or the corn that's closest to them. So that's just kind of a simple example. But the federal government or the central government did not have the power to regulate trade. Only the states did. The federal government did not have the power to force citizens to join the army. They could maintain an army, but they couldn't force anyone to join. So it made it kind of hard. They did not have the power to impose taxes. How are they going to earn money if they can't tax the people? And they could not elect a president. No, we cannot do that. So, if Congress needed to raise money or if Congress needed to raise troops for their army, they had to ask the state legislatures, and the state legislatures did not have to give them either one. So, under the new plan, each state had 1 vote. So there was a total of 13 votes. 1 vote each. The Articles had to be approved by all 13 states. So when they did create the Articles, they had to make 13 copies, send them out to all the state legislatures, and all 13 states had to ratify them or they did not become official. Eventually, all 13 states did ratify the Articles. To change or amend the Articles, all 13 states had to ratify, which was hard to do. The Articles did not provide the government with provide a government strong enough to handle the problems facing the United States. Congress had limited authority, and they could pass federal laws. To pass federal laws, 9 of the 13 states had to ratify them. So if they wanted to pass a law, they had to make 13 copies, send it out to the state legislatures, and if 9 of those 13 said yes, then the law passed. So they had to have all 13 states to change the article, but they only had to ratify, pass a law. Despite its weaknesses, the Confederation government did accomplish some important things. 1, they won their independence under the Articles of Confederation. 2, they expanded foreign trade under the Articles of Confederation. And they provided a way to settle Western land. Remember, after the French and Indian War, the Proclamation of 1763 said that nobody could cross the Appalachian Mountains. Well, one of the reasons the king put that proclamation out was because he did not want people going over there and taking land in an unorderly fashion. They wanted to set up some rules first. Well, under the Articles of Confederation, the United States government set up some rules for settling the Western land, and that was one of the things they accomplished. So, despite its accomplishments, the Confederation government had so little power that it could not deal with the country's financial problems. Remember, when you fight a war, it's expensive, and countries that have money go into debt. Can you imagine what it was like when you don't have any money and you had to fight a war? You went into a big debt. So fighting the war left the Continental Congress with a large debt. Congress had borrowed money from the American citizens. They had borrowed money from states. They had borrowed money from foreign governments like France and Spain. And they really had no way to pay them back. They still had not even paid their soldiers for their military service.
Hey, where's my pay?
So, lacking the power to tax, the Confederation government could not pay its debts. It requested money from the states, but the states said no. So, in 1781, faced with total financial collapse, Robert Morris proposed a 5% tax on imported goods to help pay the national debt. But the plan required that the Articles of Confederation be changed or amended to give Congress the power to tax. So they made 13 copies of the amendment. They sent it out to the 13 states, and 12 states approved the amendment. Rhode Island did not approve it, so the financial crisis got worse.
You fools! We need tax money.
The weaknesses of the Articles showed even more when they started to deal with other countries. According to the Treaty of Paris, the peace treaty that they made after the war, the British were supposed to get out. Well, they didn't. They said that we were violating the Treaty of Paris because we didn't pay the Loyalists. The Loyalists had confiscated, or the Americans had confiscated Loyalist lands and didn't pay them or give them their land back. So the British said that we violated the treaty, so they violated the treaty by keeping soldiers in the United States. We asked the states to pay the Loyalists, but they refused. They said no. So we couldn't do anything about it.
You need to leave. No, pay the Loyalists.
Spain caused us problems too. They stopped letting us use the Mississippi River to transport our crops. They were worried that we were so land hungry that we'd cross the Mississippi and start taking their land, so they would not let us use it. And there was nothing we could do about it.
You cannot use the Mississippi, my friend. We will shoot you if you do.
So the weaknesses of the Articles worried many leaders. George Washington described the government as little more than a shadow without substance. And many Americans began to agree that the country needed a stronger government. Well, that's it for the Articles of Confederation. Make sure you complete your note taker and students' questions. Thanks, kids, and this is Mr. Whistler signing out.